this, and I'm going to screen share and jump right in. So this week in our module, it's page layout, and you have your assignment here, which, like I said, I will go over in detail. I have left all of these past videos up here because each time I record this lecture or do something, there's probably like a little bit of information here that could be useful. It's always a little bit different each time. So if you want to go back and watch these, this is obviously not this week's lecture. It's not happening now because this link is posted, but you can go back and watch these past lectures and a lot of tutorials. I forgot to tell you last week until you left, if I go back to this module there, but most of you, maybe you look through these each week and go and click on each thing. But last week, there were actually some really useful tutorials. One was how to use the Pathfinder. The other was how to combine two objects. So I am going to do a quick Photoshop tutorial of clipping objects out, because I think that's useful for this assignment as well. But these two tutorials are pretty useful. And then I didn't make a video on it, but there is also a really simple way to make silhouettes, vector files in Illustrator. And I thought that would be a fun tutorial to show you all as well, if you want me to do that. So with that, before I jump into this week's content for layout, let me hop back over here to my Finder. And these are the assignments. So we don't need to do a full-blown critique of these, but I am going to open them. Oh, I forgot they were going to open in Photoshop. Let me switch. As I click through, you get a little sneak peek. This is for today's assignment. I just use Beyonce again. It's just, okay, so, okay, some of them did open up. Okay, hold on. I've slowed my computer down. What would be an easy way to do it? And none of these are graded yet, so it's fine. I'm going to just go into Canvas and share from the grading view. We will see if you didn't turn yours in, but as you all know, that's flexible around here, so it's fine. Let me close some of these. Close all tabs. Okay. Now there is a chance that sharing it this way, some of yours might not look exactly how they're supposed to look. You know, sometimes they preview a little weird. So if it's not looking quite right, just let me know. You can always screen share it as well. Is that cool with everyone? Okay. So it'll just be alphabetical. Let's see here. So you had the option to do an illustration or infographic, and I really thought you did a good job. Let's see, Ray, I just saw you pop in, right? You're here. Do you want to talk about yours at all?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. That's the cool thing about this assignment. If you were able to communicate what you were supposed to communicate, it's pretty straightforward. This is a really cool graphic you created. You can just see how things spread, and the messaging is really clear.
I think the idea that I wanted to have was a poster you could see like hung up, like you could sort of get the message at a glance.
Yeah, I think it's really effective. Okay, going on. Let's see. Don't know if this person is here. I didn't see you pop in. But again, this is really effective. This is a message that I think a lot of Latinx people try to get across, especially around this time of year when people wear this cultural attire as a Halloween costume. So it's very clear, it's pretty. Again, some symmetry is being used here. So go back to principles and elements of design. And yeah, overall, it was nicely done. Again, if you did these right, super effective and pretty straightforward. So Teresa, I know you're here. Do you want to say anything about yours?
Well, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So you took a photo and added like this filter to it. It has kind of more of like a illustrated look now.
Yeah, that's what I did.
And then the type, I would really like a nice meal. Anything could help, even a penny. Homelessness or unhoused people is like a really hot button issue right now, especially in our community and how that's being dealt with. So this is a good one. Okay. Kaylee, do you want to talk about yours?
So this was another MMIW project that I decided to do, and that's the hashtag that we use to spread awareness. And I drew the lady crying because it's just like a really sad epidemic. And I made her faceless because it's usually like an invisible issue that no one really talks about. So, and you never really see the faces of the people who go missing.
I really like that choice to just have the tear. It also makes like the sadness really resonate. And then the way the hands are coming in, again, principles and elements of design, it really creates a tension and like that urgency as they're like coming into the frame. So lots of good design choices here.
Thank you.
Oh, this one's large. Let's see. It usually will pop up in a new window. Here we go.
Honestly, I was fighting with this one the whole time I was trying to make it, so I would not be surprised if it uploaded weird.
Oh, that's really cool. Are all of these individual vector graphics?
A lot of them are, yeah. I was
That's why. That's why it's
yeah.
Does it look fairly accurate though?
Down.
Yeah, I really like this. So, oh gosh. Opinion poll. So we're just gonna let that ring. Sorry, everyone. I'm not gonna give my opinion poll right now. Yeah, this is really cool. You really get like the movement of this and then the scale choices of these objects versus the little person. It really makes that person feel like they're going to be like hit hard with all of these things coming down on them. I wish giant money fell on me. Yeah. The money part may not be bad, but I get the message is like, basically, is it like hustle culture, working all the time, being wrapped up in like consuming capitalism type of thing?
Basically, yeah. And it's funny because originally when I was doing it, I knew I was like, well, I want the money to come through there. And I was like, oh, I gotta try to find some contrasting colors. So when I put the red and yellow in, my partner looked over and he was like, ah, subtle nod to communism. And I'm like, that's not what I'm saying, but just general overwhelm. And I don't know about anyone else, but because it's like midterms, it feels like working on top of going to school is extra hard right now.
Yeah.
So that was basically what I was doing here.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I feel this October for me personally is always a super busy month because there's so many things. It's like the nice time of year. So everyone starts events and everything revs back up after the summer, and it just always feels so busy. So this is really cool. And a lot can be said just through an illustration. Like if you pick up on the symbolism and the mood and the overall vibe. So good job. It's really neat. And yeah, I was surprised today looking at the course calendar and just like how fast this is going by. It's crazy. So all of you are doing a really good job. I've noticed in the last few weeks, like with assignment 5 and then this one, you're starting to kind of fall off and not turn some things in right on time. But I've said this to a few people I know at the end of class. I don't know if I've said it to all of you as a whole, but the only way you can do poorly in this class is to not turn stuff in. If you show up and you turn stuff in, you're going to do fine. Now, I don't know what grade everyone wants to walk away with, but like you're not going to get a bad grade or fail if you just turn things in. That's where my bad grades usually come from, or failing grades are the students that just either fall off and don't turn things in, or just like don't turn the final in and things like that towards the end of the semester. So just keep up with it. And if an assignment is really difficult for you, you could, depending on the grade you want, if you're going to stick with it and turn everything else in, don't worry about one being lower or one falling off the mat, because sometimes I have, a couple students each semester where this particular assignment just doesn't click with them. They don't like it, and they're really struggling with the software or the technical skill, or even like that creative like jump to create that assignment. So if there's one assignment and you don't care about getting like an A in this class, then you could probably just like toss one out. Now, don't take that like as law. If you feel like you're going to do that, maybe talk to me first, but just to make you all feel better about the course in general. If there is one assignment that is just not clicking with you, you can probably get away with skipping one altogether if you've done everything else. So, okay, Jeanette, I think I saw you pop in.
Yeah, I'm here.
This is really cute.
Thank you.
This is a great infographic. So it's kind of like a funny play on the regular food pyramid. This is pretty accurate to what my child was like.
Yeah, mine's not a toddler yet, but I'm sure it is going to be just like this.
I remember everyone, it's like, oh, my child eats these like awesome foods and they're so cool. I was like, oh, my kid's gonna be like that. And in some ways, yes, like she'll eat like really weird things. And then it's like classic kid food when they start getting around other kids. It's like goldfish, French fries. I'm like,
Yeah, actually for this graphic, I wasn't sure.
but
I
it
was
doesn't
gonna
matter,
add the
right?
I was gonna add the goldfish logo in here, but I didn't know if that would throw
Oh,
it
that
all.
would ruin the whole aesthetic of it. So I would
Okay.
say for this in particular, because you have these cute food things, like you get the idea. It doesn't have to be an accurate food pyramid. You're basically using illustration to make a joke, right?
Yeah.
So accuracy is irrelevant. It's all about aesthetics and like creating the style and just like making the joke with it. So it's super cute.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'm not gonna be like, okay, show me your kid and their diet and the data behind it. That doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It's about the overall aesthetic and the vibe that you're trying to create. And it's, yeah, it's adorable.
Thank you.
And I really like, if we jump back over here, I like that because you picked like toddler kid thing, you picked really cute food graphics and then a really fun, playful color palette to double down on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I did change the colors on all of the little different levels because there were darker colors before, so I tried to match them all.
So also, okay, this one's really cool. I can't get it any bigger than this, but the file, it was bigger when I opened it in the PDF. Julia, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. Okay, so when I started it, I realized, oh no, this is overwhelming. So that's why I kind of gave up. But basically, I don't know if you can see it or not. They're supposed to be like minimum wage workers in a fishbowl, and then the setting is supposed to be like a pretty like rich setting. And then like the picture in the back is like the White House.
Yeah, they're
So-
watching.
Yeah.
This reminds me of a, gosh, what is the name of the artist? There's an artist, an impressionist painter, and there's like a famous fishbowl painting. Does anyone who's art major remember? I want to say not Cezanne or Matisse maybe. But it really has like, it kind of mimics that. And then this is really cool. Yeah, let me go to my downloads here and pull this one up bigger. So you can all see it better. See the workers? There's a lot of detail in here.
Yeah, I'm kind of like a maximalist too, so I overwhelm myself with that.
I think you did a great job. I think all the detail really helps like set the scene and gives you a lot to look at. So you can just kind of wander your eyes around here and you really get an idea of what's happening. And it's just a really clever analogy as well. So yeah, good job.
Julia, did you draw all that?
Yes, that's also why I overwhelmed myself.
Really cool.
It's neat, huh? Yeah, I really like this one. So this one really reminds me of basically meme culture and like social media.
That's literally where I got it from because I did the extra credit assignment. And since I was already in the mind space of memes, I was like, how can I make this project a meme?
Mhm. I've been seeing a lot of memes lately, or just like things like this on Instagram where they're making fun of specifically millennials and how we like Halloween, and I'm very offended by it. Because I am one of those people that love this time of month and I love Halloween and it's fun. So this is really cute and funny. And yeah, that's essentially like the reason I have that discussion board is because when you're trying to make that jump to illustration design and you're thinking about newspaper articles or magazines or places that the illustration is used to communicate, like we communicate like this all the time with social media and internet culture. And that's essentially what memes are. And we understand how that works, but for some reason, making that jump to the illustration can be harder. And I think it's just because we're not thinking about it the same way, but all you're doing is combining text and pictures to make someone understand a message, regardless of where you're doing it or how you're doing it. So. This is another really cool one.
Yeah, it's mine.
Okay, I was gonna say, are you here, Alejandro? And you-
Yeah, yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
When I'm
So,
screen sharing, you're all kind of filed in a list differently. So sorry, I was scrolling just to find you. You want to talk about it?
I mean, sure, yeah. So for like this assignment, I was looking into like other like I was thinking about how I wanted to like display it, how I really wanted like the message to be interpreted, and I actually sort of took inspiration from the comic book. So the way it's kind of seeming like if you know of like that famous Spider-Man scene where like he leaves his outfit in the trash and then he walking away from his responsibilities. I thought that kind of like structure would actually look really well for the idea that I have this project. So I decided to do that, and I decided to because the main message of this whole design that I did was that of how like nowadays people young individuals aren't really like voting, you know, like they always are talking about how like they want things to be better and how they want like the days of tomorrow to be a lot more better, but when that day comes to actually like do that change, in this case voting, not many people go towards and actually try to vote. So while they try to like say that they want things to change, they don't go to do necessarily have that change actually happen. And because of that, I decided to go with a picture that kind of shows the if we don't like vote or something like that, the day of tomorrow it could be either worse of some sort. You know, we don't know how things might worsen later on. So that's kind of what I wanted to interpret within this.
Yeah, I think the communication aspect of this is very clear. You did a good job on getting that message across, and then just a lot of unique illustration choices style wise. And yeah, you have some comments on the texture. That texture looks really cool. Yeah, good
Yeah,
job.
the tones used, the muted tones and the dark, like the dark imagery in the image is really good. Are those like statued faces on the far left?
Over here.
Yeah, like they look like almost like Greek.
I
like-
was wondering that too, what they were.
It's more like rubble kind of.
Oh,
so
okay.
as you can tell, the buildings are like kind of like faded or worn down, and like as it's like on the side it's like rubble that's kind of being built up, because like, you know, to kind of show there's like negligence of sorts. We don't focus what's around us, like the idea of like leaving things as they are instead of changing them for like the better. So I
Oh.
decided to just leave it as it is in order to like kind of bring that up.
Cool. Yeah, I was wondering, but then I was like, honestly, it doesn't matter what, like, it doesn't change. Well, I mean, maybe if you had said like something that was really, but you get the whole picture, and I think the message comes across regardless of what that is, but it's what you explained was even more significant. So yeah, good job. There one here. Yeah, there's one here.
Yeah, so I didn't get around I started this a couple days ago and I totally forgot, and I just wanted to turn in before. So it's kind of
Okay.
like there's not really any color or anything to it, but it's supposed to be like, oh, I was gonna return it in, but it's supposed to be like breaking away from COVID kind of. Then
I thought this was really clever. I love when
okay,
two things
'cause
are like,
I did. All right, sorry, you go.
oh no, so it's your project if you would.
No. I thank God you liked it, because I was like, oh my God, I gotta turn something in. I totally forgot about it, and it was like coming up, and I don't know. I feel like this week I did it a couple days ago, and I was kind of like, I thought it was good, but then I wanted to add more color and stuff to it, but I didn't really know how. I wanted to maybe make the COVID thing like red, and I don't know, maybe like the birds like
I would
fade or something.
say to take this like really to the next level, because I love when two things are combined or transforming, or like it's like the juxtaposition of something you don't expect with something else. if you, and maybe, because I can't tell, is this COVID,
I think it's I looked at the COVID actual, like,
but
I
is
don't
this
know.
a JPEG file?
Yeah, it's an actual file. So it's like, there's a background to it. So that's why I couldn't really, I mean, I could
Yeah,
change it, but it would just turn all red, I think.
so you need some of these birds in white. Like
Yeah.
some of these circles need to be like pieces of the bird.
Uh-huh.
And if you had that, this would be like, as far as like a breaking away from COVID image, this would be perfect because
Okay, yeah.
I
'Cause I
think
couldn't-
that's where like it'd also be really topical because it's like, I think the state of California just announced something about like, okay, these served us now, we're gonna move on. And it's really kind of becoming, it's interesting. It's becoming like, okay, we're all breaking away from this, we have to move on. And then I'll see an article like next wave. I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah, it was kind of.
But
feel
I think
weird.
these are the topics right now that are in the news and in the media. So this is like a really topical, and it would fit perfectly with any of those headlines that I've been seeing. But that's what would take it to the next level. Is if you just had a few of these circles of the COVID germ. It's not a germ, is it? What is it called?
Like a back. Yeah, I don't know.
Virus.
Yeah, virus.
Anyway,
that's right.
everyone knows this is supposed to be COVID, but this COVID thingy, if there were a few pieces of that bird shape in there as it was coming out, then it would be like perfect. But yeah, these don't have to be complicated. They just have to convey a message. And I love that you thought of this and put those two things together. So it's good.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, the positive and negative space is really interesting. So Roxanne made an infographic. Are you here?
Yes, I am.
I saw you earlier, but again, when I'm in screen sharing, you all file in and I lose you. Okay, so this is a really effective infographic. I like that you added the background. So this is the line of duty and this is the suicide rate. Firefighters and EMS workers versus police officers. Last 6 years. Are these accurate statistics?
Yes, for California. And that's them combined, firefighters and police officers.
Yeah, so this is oh, and who are military veterans. Yeah, because I know from your past assignment, this is a topic that you feel really passionate about. And you were talking to me after class last time. You're like, I don't really know what I'm gonna do. But you were able, and I said, work within your skill set and pick something that works for you. And I think you definitely did that. Vana made a comment about the yellow, and that is like the contrasting thing in this color palette. Like, let's see, like maybe if it were just white, but I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I would suggest something different, but then you kind of have to see it.
I tried to use a lot of different colors and it just wasn't
working for you.
Yeah, darker colors, just the black font looked a little too weird on it.
So the thing about the yellow too is that the contrast is good because that's where your eye is going to go. So you need to make sure it's on the things that you want to stand out. So because of the yellow boxes, the headline's not the first thing you see. Like your eye does go to the yellow boxes right away.
Okay.
But I'm really proud of you for like thinking of like what you're gonna do. And I said I would recommend you do an infographic. Oh, and I think you came up with something that's really effective. So you did a good job.
Thank you.
Okay, here it comes. Riley.
Yeah, so you had said that we could do something happening in our life right now, and two of my cousins, well, not two, one of my cousins, Paige, So I just got their card in the mail and I just kind of decided to go off the picture that they sent. And so I drew this and yeah, pretty simple.
Super cute. Have you shown them this?
No, I'm gonna give it to her just as like a cute little gift. So
Aw, well, I hope that she likes it. It's really
Yeah,
cute. I like the style of like minimizing the people.
Mhm.
Just to kind of keep it like open. You have a really good sense of color. Like everything that you design has like a certain style already. So this fits right along with that. Yeah, it's really cute.
Thank you.
I hope she likes it. Another cute one. So Stephanie probably drew all of these, yeah.
Yeah, I did an Illustrator.
It's super cute. You definitely get the vibe. It's cozy season. You could see this being shared on the internet, very meme worthy. And there's a lot of little components here that are fun. Do you want to add anything? The pup has a heart on its butt. It does. It reminds me of a kid.
Yeah. It's true though, because that's actually my dog. Her name's Paris. And actually, I don't know if you've all felt it, but this past Sunday, it got really like cold outside. It's finally starting to feel like fall. So I was like, oh, okay, this is perfect. Yeah, because it dropped into like the 60s. And I was like, okay, it's really time for cozy season. So, like I have some hot cocoa right there. And then, like orangey flowers, it's like fall. And my dog, she like loves to like be near we have like a fireplace. So when it gets really cold, she likes to snuggle there. So that's what I put it in. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, topical. I know I was in here, I think it was just yesterday, and I had like a down coat on. I was freezing. And we're like, we can't turn the heat on. We just had the AC on. Like it doesn't feel right. So I was just like, I was freezing yesterday. It was cold. So I'm glad it's finally starting to cool off. I don't like the heat. Let's see. Oh, this is another cool one. Star, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, sorry, I was eating granola. I did not know it was coming.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
I always tell you all this is like during dinner time, so go ahead and eat, make yourself.
No, you're okay. This is supposed to be kind of how social media puts pressure on people, especially not to out Instagram, but Instagram. I don't know if I was allowed to even put the logo if that's allowed, but it's kind of just
it's allowed here. I'm all
right.
allowed.
It's like a depiction on kind of the pressures and all the thoughts that come when you post a picture, when you look at a picture. So I was trying to convey that message.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's very clear communication. And like we said with the very first one, if you've done the assignment right, there's really not a lot of explanation to it. It's really cool and effective and accurate. And yeah, it's great design.
Thank you.
And Claire. That's as zoomed out as I can get. So that just made it. Oh, there we go. So you can all see the whole thing. So honeycomb pattern. And it's such a subtle way to convey this message. Like honeycomb, it's like a hive, bees working together. So I think there's a lot of really smart decisions here, and yeah, not overly complicated, but effective. Do you want to, Claire's here, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, do you want to talk about it?
So when I saw the assignment, I was like, oh, infographic, so I went and looked up other infographics so that I could get some information, and a lot of them look to me like classroom posters that you have in elementary school classroom. And as someone who wants to be a teacher, I was like, okay, well, what's something that I would want like in my classroom, I guess. So that's what I came up with this. And I'm not really good with any of these like softwares. So I feel like this was like simple enough for me to like do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the explanation.
It's great, smart decision making. I always have at least like one student every semester that's going to go into education or wants to be a teacher. And let me tell you, like this class could not be more useful. I mean, obviously, if you want to go in design, this class is probably super useful to you. But if you're not planning on going into design, or it's something specifically related to your major, teachers have to produce so much visual content. Like you're constantly having to visually communicate things, give students things, from the way your classroom looks to flyers to handouts, all of those things. So yeah, so I love that you approach the assignment in that way. And again, super effective. Get this one downloaded. It'll just take a second here. And then I think this is the last one.
Could I actually show mine? I submitted it because I didn't realize we were supposed to submit it at 5.
Oh yeah, I didn't see who that was talking.
Okay, sorry.
But yeah, let's go to this one first, and then whoever said that will go to you. I'm sorry. So Marley, do you want to talk about it?
Sure. So I wish I had more time to work on it. I didn't have a lot of time this week to make it more detailed and stuff. But so last week, a lot of the examples were like during the 2020 time. So they were like kind of depressing. So like my idea was depressing. But so I did like the whole like feeling of like being surrounded by people and like there's people around you, but you still feel kind of alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made like the people in the background kind of I lowered the opacity of them so they kind of look like ghosts, and so like it would draw more attention to the girl in the middle.
Yeah, did you draw all of these? Or like, I mean, did you draw, some of them are repeated.
Yeah, so I think there were like 4 different silhouettes that I just kept copying.
It's really cool. I mean, there's so much like layering and things going on here. It's a really cool illustration. I really like it. And I like the way you use space. And I love the opacity change. They do feel like they're almost moving, like she's moving through the crowd. You really get the movement. Yeah, it's very cool.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, okay, who asked me if they could share? I'm sorry.
It was me.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I had it ready. It was just didn't submit it. Okay, can you see it?
Uh-huh.
Okay. It's not, I also did this very fast, so I know I could have done a lot better, but I still think it conveys a really good message.
Yeah, I like your color choices. You did say it was like, was it stars? I've already.
Yeah, hers was very similar to mine.
And I think that just goes to show when I see people double up on topics, I mean, obviously outside of 2020, because in 2020, everybody did the same topics, basically. It just goes to show you how much of an issue that is or how that's on people's minds. And yeah, you're getting lots of compliments. It looks really good. It's just a different, I like that these are just 2 different style choices, because that again helps with our overall topic of illustration when we were talking about style and how you don't have to draw things like one certain way. It doesn't have to be super detailed. It could be minimal. It could be complex. And there's just like all these different ways to convey the same message. And I think that's what this just kind of shows a good example of. Like for example, Julia had so much going on in hers. And yeah, did you use a photo reference for your woman image?
Yeah, so I'm actually watching One Tree Hill right now. And so like that just inspired me.
Uh-huh.
I can spot it from a mile away. I was like, this is One Tree Hill. I knew it.
That's funny. I actually never watched that show, and it was on when I was like a teenager, like peak, like my time. Should I watch it?
Yes.
It's really good.
Okay.
I've never been so mad at a show, but like so addicted to a show at the same time.
I watched that show when it came out and I was in the 4th grade. I was way too little. I don't know where my mom was, but I was watching it and I was so obsessed and invested. And I have like the DVD, even though I don't have a DVD player, but I have like the DVDs. I'll give them to you, even though I think it's streaming somewhere. But if you need them, I have them.
I'll look on streaming services and see if I can find it.
With ads.
It's on Hulu?
Yeah, you just have to watch ads, but I mean, it's worth it.
Okay, I'll start watching One Tree Hill. I've never watched that show. It's so funny that I just never did. I was really into, what would I watch? Like Gilmore Girls, Dawson's Creek, Felicity, like those were like my shows. And some of them I stuck with till the end. Some of them I can't remember how they ended. But yeah, that was on around that same time. I never watched it. So I'm in for a treat. I know, I'm excited. So you all did a really good job with this assignment. You understood the assignment, you got the point, which is to communicate something effectively through visuals. And this week, it's still the same thing. You're combining text and pictures, but there's a little bit of a spin on it. So it's layout. And that means when it's layout, the bulk of your design is going to be consumed with text. So does anyone have any questions before we move on? Okay, I'm going to pull up the assignment. Sorry, give me a second. Okay. So back to screen sharing. So layout in design. I do have a PowerPoint. Let me explain the assignment. We'll work kind of backwards today. So the objective of your assignment is to create a dynamic magazine spread featuring a person of your choice. So that's what's fun about this is you can pick who you want to feature. You can pick your favorite celebrity. You can pick someone from your favorite TV show. We were just talking about that. But getting to pick that person of your choice, make it fun, make it someone whose aesthetic you like so that you can basically recreate that and style it up in a way that's fun for you. So this will be done in InDesign, and you might have to use Photoshop and Illustrator as needed. Your layout must contain one large feature photo of a person clipped out with a new background added by you. In other words, do not use the original image as is. So typographic headline, use the name of the person as the headline. If you want to think of a clever headline, you go right ahead, but you don't know what to do, just use the name of the person you pick. The featured image and headline must interact, connect, or form a design relationship in some way. And then you need approximately 200 words of text or body copy. And you can use Lorem Ipsum or placeholder text, or you can Google article about Beyonce and then copy and paste it in. So this is a sample layout. You have to use a photograph. I just want to show you what I mean about a headline, an image, a subheadline, and body copy. And this would be like the caption. So you've all looked at magazines before, right? Or like seen things like articles where it's like a really dynamic layout and it's featuring somebody, and I'll show you lots of examples of that in a minute. So bonus points for a subheadline, a pull quote, secondary supporting images. So if you do those things, that's even better. If all you can get to are these things, that's fine too. So before you're done with your project, ask yourself, did you meet all the assignment specifications? Does your photo and type interact or connect in the design? Did you utilize a grid system? Did you create a typographical hierarchy? So again, think back to typography week with hierarchy. And that's exactly what a magazine layout design is. It has a typographic hierarchy to tell you what to read. Do any of you ever, I mean, sometimes you open a magazine and you just start reading the middle of an article. Most of the time, the headline grabs your attention first. And then you'll start kind of breaking down the subheadlines. You might read a full quote, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to dive in and actually read this whole thing. This is an example of how to export, because this can be a little tricky in InDesign, but you go to Adobe Presets, high quality print, and you want to make sure that you export it as spreads, because you'll be doing an 8.5 by 11 2-page layout, which is essentially 11 by 17. These are examples of past students' work. So this is a Lady Gaga article. Mike Tyson, this student was very advanced. And then this student did something really creative that hadn't been done before, where she picked multiple pictures. So she has the clipped out image of Kate Middleton, and then decided to almost infographic this and did this cool second page. So I thought that was really interesting. But then her design carries over, so you can tell it's a 2-page spread with the color palette and the design decisions here, but it's 2 distinctive pages. And then this one I thought was really clever too, where the name takes up almost all of the image, and then you have the article over here. So this is what you're going to be doing this week. Let me go to PowerPoint. So this PowerPoint, and this is the same PowerPoint that I go over if we go back to the module. I talk about this PowerPoint here, and in the past, we've actually gotten to use this assignment instead of picking like a random celebrity. We've done this assignment with actual articles from the Runner, which we're not doing this assignment, but in this video, I go over this PowerPoint and talk about these different layouts for inspiration. And then I actually delve into the first issue of the Runner's magazine. Beta, maybe you could remind me the name of it, because I'm blanking. Yes, Converge. And we actually talk about the layouts that are in that magazine, because the students this semester were going to be designing for that magazine. It's a lot harder to do page layout when most of the time when I'm laying out an ad or a flyer or anything from a client, I am given the photos, I am given the text and the headlines and all of the components. And it's like problem solving, it's a puzzle. So I know my specs, I have to fit it within this page, and I have to get things to fit. Even if you're doing a magazine, like a real functional working magazine, you have to get all those words to fit in this page. So you have more limitations. This is really fun because honestly, if you're like, this is too much text and I want my picture to be bigger or be better or be over here, you just cut that text out and nobody cares what it says. Yeah, I would love to do that again. I just didn't connect with the Runner. I should have connected with you before this assignment. Are you, Veda, so you're designing all the pages?
Yeah, because I don't really have anyone designing with me right now. I'm currently teaching someone, but it's probably gonna fall on me, yeah.
So let's do this. So we will do this assignment this week like this. We have some pretty good designers in this class. I can tell from some of your assignments. If any of you would like to get extra credit or replace an assignment by doing a magazine layout for Veda, let's make that happen, okay? Have any of you seen Converge magazine? It's really cool.
It's online if you want to show it. I don't know.
Yeah, do you have
Yeah, let me send a link really quick.
Okay, Vana's gonna send a link, but it's a really well done magazine by the runner and the students of CSUB. And the covers are always really beautiful. The stories are really interesting. And it is a lot to take on for one person. Like I
did it last year. It was my first semester on the runner and I did it by myself. So
oh my gosh.
that is how I got into the world of design and now I love it.
All right, here's, I'm gonna pull it up. So I clicked on the link.
Yeah, you could just make it full screen there. But it's good that we're doing it this week because I start designing next week. So
yeah, so all of you will have experience in InDesign and page layout. I love the logo and there's always really cool art on the cover. And then so in the past, there's been photos that are provided and then there's text. So what's more difficult about this is that you have to fit your story within, do you know your end page goal when you start designing? Or do you get to add them in fours as needed?
Yeah, I think I can add in fours as I need. I think we're gonna come up with like a general number once we get all the stories in and we decide how many pages each one is gonna be. That's all happening on Wednesday of next week. So
yeah, there is a lot to page layout and magazine design in like as a whole. But you can see here, look, illustrations, infographics. What I think is fun, again, is when I'm doing a page layout or something like this, or like a newsletter, you get to read the article and then it's like solving a puzzle. You're putting all these pieces together. You have the text, you might have images, and then you've got to read, figure out what's significant, put things together, pull them apart, and really enhance the story. Oh, I like the way this is done with the photos. So, you get 3 photos of something and you're like, how am I going to work these in? Let's see, this is part of the fashion article.
yeah.
So it's like, instead of just like putting the images on a page, this makes it really dynamic. It makes it fun. Oh, I love these candle people. I follow them. And that's a really cool image. So they're just like fun articles. If you don't follow these candle people, you all should. They're on TikTok and Instagram and they're local. And on TikTok, they like blew up. They have so many followers and it's a really cool story. But yeah, so this is what is done when you're provided with text, you're provided with photos. What you get to do this week is make that up. So you don't have to like be limited by these constraints. If your text is too long or you don't like the photo you're working with, you get to find another one. You get to cut the text. You get to decide that you can leave room for a pull quote or you could have a big headline. You get to make all those really fun decisions. So again, this video is an old video. This video is an old video. I left all of these in because I just think they might help you. This is layout tips and tricks, just to help you with some things like putting text blocks in, changing the size of things. InDesign is a little bit different than the other programs, but it's essentially the same. I know in the past, what a lot of you struggled with was the concept of frames in InDesign and how you put your images into a frame. So I'll go into InDesign in a minute and we'll kind of walk through this. Let me jump to this PowerPoint. And again, this PowerPoint only consists of layout examples. So this talks about the grid. This layout literally has a grid as a design element. But think about that when you're designing your own layouts. You can use a grid system. And what that does is it gives you some guides to keep things like chunked up in the right place and to flow. So there's like some alignment going on. But this design literally has a grid as part of the design to keep it cohesive. Leading lines. So this design uses this V-shaped and everything is leading in to the center point, even the text. And I'll show you how to text wrap. In fact, I show you how to text wrap in the video, but I'll show you again. So scale and hierarchy. See how this text and the image are the most significant things on the page. Oops, too far. And then you have the subheadline. You have a drop cap, which can be a really cool design feature. Oh, fly in here. That won't go away. Okay. And then you have the body copy. And it even has these extra little bugs popping out. And then this is like in a magazine, you typically have a page number, and then you'd have like a little top, there's a name for this, which I can't think of. Maybe Veda knows. But like a little, it's not a caption, but it like tells you, or like index kind of reference type of thing.
We call it a header.
Okay. But different than like this head. This would be the headline, right? And
Yeah,
this-
that's the headline and that's the header.
This I think is really cool. You have alignment and focus. So changing the color of this headline goes right through the middle of the design, which is a really unique thing that you don't see a lot. But it's done really well here. And it really draws your attention to the middle of that page. And the focus is this really cool image. Again, you have a pull quote, or like this would be the subheadline and the credits. And then this is the caption over here tucked in there. They could have easily put the caption here, but then it might be competing with these elements. So it's tucked in there. And then I like the way this drop cap, super dramatic, even goes behind the text in this case. And these body copy columns are really thick and chunky, but it fills out that whole page and everything really works together cohesively. And then see, this color is getting pulled from here. I really love this layout too. I love that back color choice overall. It's like a bright pop of pink, and the image takes up the whole page. And then she is like, the fact that she's covering her own name is telling you that she doesn't need an introduction. Like Nicki Minaj doesn't need her name to be completely showing. It's a very bold choice as far as design goes. And then there's a lot of really interesting subheadlines and identifiers to move you through the text, because this is one of those like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things, like where it's numbering like the article. And so that kind of keeps you moving throughout. This is a really clean, minimalistic approach, but there's still a lot of really interesting design choices that are going on here. And I have the headline for this one, balance. So you have the light and the dark really being balanced well in this 2-page spread. So you'll see spreads like this where the whole design is basically considered one thing. It's going across the whole page. If this were in a magazine, the gutter would probably fall right about here. And this is opposite. This is clearly breaking up the 2 pages. And you see one page and then you see the other page, but they still feel balanced, they feel cohesive, and they go together really well. This has another, like this is a good way, especially when you look at those articles in Converge magazine, where there's really, really text heavy, but you still want to create a really cool image to grab the reader's attention. So this article is really text heavy, but there's this cool dynamic photograph going across. This is also a really great technique to use multiple photographs without it feeling too like plopped on the page or collagey. It really makes this image feel cohesive, but gave an opportunity to put multiple images in there. And then I love the way this pull quote is done. And oops, again, very dynamic. You get that feeling of the athleticism and what this connects to. And then you have the story coming down. This one is a single page spread, but it has a really cool text wrap, which I will show you how to do. Text wrap is actually a lot easier than you probably think it is. But yeah, you can use text wrap in really fun, interesting ways. and then white space. White space, oops, too far. White space is really important, or, you know, theoretical white space, like maybe you have a red background, maybe your background's blue, but leaving open space is really important too. You don't necessarily have to fill every corner of that, of this page. And white space is also a huge privilege. If any of you, like Veda probably knows, if you've worked in magazine layout or you've worked in design where you have to get these points in this article, you have to add all this text, you have to have these things in there. Sometimes we don't have the privilege of getting to use as much white space as we want. Designers are always fighting for that, and clients are always saying, add, add, add. So because you get to pick, you're your own art director, you're your own client for this, feel free to use open space. Don't feel like you have to put something in every corner of your design. So that is the end of that PowerPoint. These are just some examples that I pulled that I think are really nice and effective. I'm going to get into InDesign now and show you a few tips and tricks, but I'm going to start in Photoshop. So I pulled this image, and for those of you who have not used Photoshop a lot, it's really simple now to clip out an image. Actually, if you are to go to this tutorial, was it in last week's module? I probably do this a lot more. I probably clip out the image a little more complicated than you have to do it now. But for most images, if you pick this object selection tool in Photoshop, so get your toolbar open and there's a magic wand, there's the quick selection tool. If this object selection tool works 90% of the time, just depending on what your background is and what your image looks like. I can tell you right now, see if I scroll over, it sees it. It's not going to know this part. Oh, I'm pointing at my screen with my finger. I'll point with my mouse. It's probably going to pick up this shadow as part of her instead of cutting it right there. So you would have to make the decision as the designer if you then wanted to go in and clip out this shadow. For the sake of quickness in our assignment, I'm not going to do it, but you essentially take this tool, go around, and then it automatically detects, and boom, it has Beyonce selected for me. Now, what I'm going to do from here is what's important for you to watch. She's on a layer, and this is not a locked layer. If your layer is locked, you double click on it and you hit OK. You click on this part. Let me actually start back. So I'm going to flatten this image. See where it's locked as the background layer? If your layer looks like that, just double click it and hit OK, and it turns it into layer 0 instead of the locked background layer. Then you take your object selection tool, you grab your object, and then what I'm going to do from here is just hit this layer mask right there. And now my background is gone. Super simple, easiest way to clip something out. You can see it didn't do a perfect job with the hair here. And of course it didn't get that shadow. So you can then click on your layer mask and it'll take you to this new layer. And you can get this, there's a couple different selection brushes. I like this refined edge brush, and I love every time I use this technique to clip someone out, I just go back over the hair again and see if it can refine it a little bit for me. And then a lot of times it'll bring a little bit more back in so that I don't have to go manually do that. And I can get a little bit of those edges back in here. And I can scroll through and just kind of soften that up. Now, depending on what you're going for here, remember from the assignment with the logo type and using Photoshop, you can then click on your layer mask. Make sure you're clicked on here, not here. You're clicked on the layer mask, and you can use white and black brushes to make things go away or to bring more things out. So you can see here, I probably lost too much of her hair. And if you want to test this out, you just add a new layer and add a background color to it. And you can see here, how I lost a lot of her hair. So I'm just gonna get my selection brush and I'm just gonna brush in a little bit more of that back in. And then maybe a little bit right here. But for the most part, that did a pretty good job. I lost a little bit of her arm. I can just brush that back in. And then I'm going to actually delete this. And I'm going to file, save as, and I've already put a folder on my desktop called layout assignment. And I'm going to rename this as Beyonce, and I'm going to keep it as a Photoshop file in case I want to go back and edit this as I'm working. Now, if any of you have computers where it's hard to open multiple programs at once, or like it's just hard for you to navigate and get your computers to read really big files, don't use a photo that's too large, and you might want to go ahead and save it as a PNG. You might want to save your Photoshop file in this folder and then save a PNG in the same folder, import the PNG, but then if you do decide you want to go back, it's just an extra step instead of placing the Photoshop file. So if I place the Photoshop file, it's my working file, it's editable, and I go back in that fly. Oh, sorry guys. If I decide I want to edit that, I just open up that Photoshop file, I edit it, I save it, it'll automatically import that updated file into InDesign. But if your computer is lagging and it's hard for you to import really big files, save a PNG or a flattened file, and then just keep your Photoshop file as well if you need to make changes. So I'm going to save this as a Photoshop file. Then I'm going to pop over here to InDesign. Now I currently only have my layout as a single page. Let me start from the very beginning for you. File, new document, 8.5 by 11. I like to work in inches because I can think in inches better. So 8.5 by 11. And you're going to want to do 2 pages, but I'm just going to hit 8.5 by 11 and click OK. I'm not going to change my margins yet or my bleeds or anything. Turn those grids off. Okay. So I want this to be a 2-page spread. If you would like, you can easily just go to File, New Document, and you can do 17 by 11. And this is what is essentially a 2-page spread without actually making spreads. But if you're ever going to work in a magazine or layout, any type of book, you'll need to know how to do it like this. First thing I always do is I allow my document pages to shuffle. I turn that off, and I allow selected spreads to shuffle, and I turn both of those off. And then I can add pages, and I can pull this up and link it. So now these are linked as a spread. So if you go in and you turn off these 2 settings, then you can add a page. And see how I add them as 2 different pages? You just grab one and you link it up to the next one. But I only need 2, so I'm going to throw these 2 away. So here's my 2-page spread. It's actually working on them. It keeps it looking like it's 2 individual pages. And then when I do File, Export, and this is in your assignment, sure, we'll just save it here. You just click on Spreads, and then that keeps those linked together. So from here, I'm going to place, File, Place. Now remember this part, because this is where I've seen some of you get into trouble before. When you want to put something into InDesign, you don't use Open. Open is to open a whole new InDesign file. What I want to do right now is place that Photoshop file of Beyonce into this document that I'm creating. So File, Place, and then I navigate to, it's on my desktop, and I find that image and I open it, and then I can just click and it's plopped in. Now, if I zoom out here, you'll see she came in a lot bigger than I wanted. She's over there in the corner. Now I can use my selection arrow and I can make this frame smaller and see it would crop her here. So remember, there's a difference between selecting the frame with the selection arrow and selecting the image with the direct selection arrow. So if I click here and this blue frame is chosen, I'm picking up the whole frame. If I want to just grab the image, I use this direct selection arrow and see that orangish brown box in there? That's picking up the whole image and I'm moving it within the frame. The frame is not moving. That's why you can't see her when I move her. But if I use this arrow, the direct selection arrow, and I get that blue box, then I can expand or minimize my frame as needed. And I can even make it smaller. So this is one of my particular design pet peeves. When you clip someone out, try to make sure they're not floating in space. So she doesn't have legs, right? This photo doesn't have legs. Now, a lot of times I'll see students do this and then they put their clipped out person here. But if someone is going off a page, like say she also didn't have this arm, like that's the image I use, then you just need to anchor them in space. So I would just move her to the side so that it doesn't look like she's cut off in space. I just would anchor her over here. And now it looks intentional. It looks like I had a whole image and this is a design decision rather than a mistake. But I do have all of Beyonce, so I'm going to bring her back over here so you can see that elbow, but I'm going to keep her anchored at the bottom of this page. Now, a couple of fun things we could do with Beyonce now that she's clipped out. Because she's clipped out and she has a transparent background, my text can go behind her. So I could do just like that Nicki Minaj example. I could write Beyonce and I can change the type to anything that I like, that I feel like fits. Just go with Old English. And then I can make it really big. Like really big. That was too big. It went out of my text frame. Did it look like I lost my text? It's because I made the text so big that it went out of my text frame. And if I just expand my text frame or I reduce the size of my text, it'll come back. And it'll tell you that because you'll see this red dot popping up here. And if you watch that video with tips and tricks, that's where this is really going to be important. Now, I also want to make this smaller. So I'm just going to click in there, see my text cursor in there, and I'm going to hit Command A. So I've now selected all the text that's in this frame, and I'm going to reduce it even more to like 200. And now I have the whole name. And all I have to do is send that to back. So I used a key command, which is Command Shift bracket. It's like 3 key commands, but you can also go to Object, Transform, Object Arrange, and send forward and backwards. Now you also need to learn a few things about text in general when you're using InDesign. So there's a lot of text options here. I can center my text. And if I click on my text frame, I can make decisions across the board with that frame. But you need to make sure you have your text tool in order to do that. So if you know this, you have this clicked on, like I'm clicking on my headline, it's a text frame, and I've got the selection arrow. Some text options won't pop up until you click the text tool. And now you can see that my centering and justification and all of those have popped up. There are so many things you can do in InDesign when it comes to text. Like InDesign is what you would lay out a novel in. It's very powerful software. It's very adaptable software. There are so many options. So just explore and see what things do. Like you can change the leading. You can also change the tracking. You can change the space that's returned between each paragraph if you'd like to. And again, you can watch this video. Oops, no. Okay. I always like to stop it before we have to hear me start talking. InDesign tips and tricks. And it might be a lot of what I'm showing you here, but feel free to watch these past videos. It's good content for you and good ways to learn. Okay, so I'm just going to rip off essentially that example and the like the Lady Gaga student poster and then the example by wrapping the text around her here. So you'll need some kind of text. I need to find something. You can go to loremipsum.com and you can steal Latin text placeholder if you'd like. Or I could also Google like Beyonce articles and copy and paste this out. But I'm just going to take this for now. And I use my text tool again. And I need to create columns. So layout, margins, and columns. I have both of my pages selected over here, so it should apply these changes to both pages in my spread. And instead of one column, I want my page to have, let's see, I'm going to do 2 columns. 3 might look nice, sometimes 4 if it's a bot that's really copy heavy. I'm just going to do 2. So then I get my text tool, I click here, I start a text frame, and I paste that text. And I'm just going to copy this and paste it a couple more times. So you'll see here, I actually cut off my text. That's what this red indicator is telling me. So if I click on this plus sign, then it will automatically, if I click over here, add my text into a new text frame on the next page.
There's actually an easier way to make columns Yeah, so if you just drag your first text box, so delete the second one.
Oops.
And then drag the first one over to the second column.
Like this?
Yes, all the way. And then in your properties on the right side, where is it at?
Oh, yes. Let's see, properties is like info.
Maybe do window and properties to find it, because there's a properties one.
Yes.
And you make it bigger, scroll all the way down. And then you see where it says text frame, and there's that one with the up and down button.
Oh, you add 2.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a lot easier. I've never done it like that. So then if I just want it to be here and then it just does it. Oh. This is actually, this is easier because it like you don't have to do your columns.
Yeah.
So this is a great example, everyone. These programs, InDesign specifically, there's so much that these programs can do. And like I've said before too, especially in Photoshop, there's like more than one way to do anything. This is really easy because it makes it editable. Like say I started with, like, let me go back this way. So I have my 2 columns and I'm like, you know what? I really think 3 columns would be better. Then instead of just clicking down here, I would have to go up and adjust my layout margin columns because these would be my guides. I would recommend though, changing your columns on the page, just like how I did, like layout margins columns, so that you have that visual cue. It just kind of gives you that grid. But yeah, I'm gonna make columns. So then I could go here. I don't have enough text. But that would reduce like a couple steps if you decide to change your mind. So that's really cool. Thank you, Veda. Did everyone get that? It'll be on the video if you want to look back, but window properties. And if you scroll to the bottom, when your text box is selected, you can add the columns here. So that's another, if we open up text frame options, this is where you, and this is what I mean by these programs do so much. There's so much you can get into. A lot of times when I'm laying out a page, I will justify like columns for certain things because it looks good. This can also sometimes get you into a jam of like things looking weird. So there's things like widows. There's all of these typographical vocabulary where you'll get widows, and that means, and I'm big about eliminating these in most of my designs, but sometimes when you get into magazine articles, it's really hard to get rid of them, and you'll see like hyphens. I take hyphens off almost all the time. I don't like hyphens, but I also don't like justifying because you'll get like weird rivers running through the text sometimes. When it's small body copy like this, it's not bad. But if you try to justify like these columns and you have like a lot of text, then you'll get like, it compensates by making this space even by adding space here. So sometimes you just get really weird gaps in between pages, and I don't think it's easier to read. So I almost always just do justifying it to one side. I will take off my hyphens. I come over here and I add return space this way. I don't add return space by returning more times. So I actually add return space by using like the space after the paragraph. And again, just like what Veda showed us about the columns, if I decide I need more or less space later, this will change it across the board than me going through and being like, oh, I wish I didn't double return space. Like that's not how you space paragraphs. You space paragraphs by using the features in InDesign. Because if I decided this was too much space to fit the article, then I have to go through this text and I have to physically delete those returns. So that's what all of these things, and if you hover over them, they'll tell you what they do. So feel free to explore those. Again, you're making this up. You get to pick how you make things look. You get to pick how much text you want. This would be a good place like under here for me to add a subheadline. You can do a pull quote, and you can add all of those other little fun things based off of who you're featuring and what you want to convey in your article. Okay, text wrap. So Veda, have you ever done a text wrap?
Yes.
Okay, so this will be interesting too, because there's a way I do this that is the improper way, but I do it for control. And then there are lots of features here that help you do it. So if I pull up an example, I think I can find it here. Let's downloads. Let's see, here we go. Just had it up. I just had those examples up. Here we go. No, it wasn't that one. It was. I don't think it's in the set. I have a really good example of a student's project. It was based off The Bachelor. And it was really cool because they have a pull quote in a circle. So you can use these frames and you can use anything. And there's this text wrap palette if you keep it open. And it gives you the option. So if I wanted to make a circle here, and I want like a pull quote in the circle, I can just hit the text wrap on this frame. Whether this is solid or not, and then you use your text frame option to add that space. So again, if I go back to properties here, reduce this to 2, then you get a little more of that circle. If this is 3 columns, you kind of start losing that circle shape. But you could put a pull quote in here if you wanted to. If I'm wrapping somebody like a person, I often will just take the pen tool and then I will make a shape, and it doesn't have to be super smooth. But I'll just make a rough shape around that person just like I would with an object. And then I will wrap the text like that. And then if I move this to this side, you'll see it's wrapped on this side as well. See, it's also wrapping my headline, which I don't want it to. So that's where you go back into your text frame options as well. And you click on your text frame, and in text frame options, you say ignore text wrap, which is right here. So if you want text to not be wrapped, and this is what you would also want to do for your pull quotes. Like if I had the pull quote, when I use the phrase pull quote, do you know what I mean? It's like an excerpt from the article that's usually pulled out of the article to grab the reader's attention in some way. And it can be like the most provocative thing in the article, and then you read the article and you're like, oh, that's not really what, you know, or it can be like just a little headline, something to create buzz to get your reader's attention. So if I was typing here and I wanted to put this in the circle, I have to turn the text wrap off of this text frame, or it's going to keep trying to wrap it. So you can also go object, text frame options, and ignore text wrap. So then it's the full quote goes here. And then you can change the size. So remember typographical hierarchy when you're working on this. What do you want people to read first? What do you want them to read second? Where do you want their eye to move across the page? And choose your fonts and the sizing and your colors, principles, and elements of a design accordingly. But here I go. I essentially have this assignment done. I can do things now because she's clipped out. Layers are very useful in InDesign as well as Illustrator. If I want to add a background layer to this, then I can get a text box, or sorry, an object. I'm just using a rectangle, and I'm going to fill it in with a color, and I want it filled. And see how now there's color behind her? And I can make a background color. Maybe I want it to be a couple bands of color. Just go with CMYK here. And then I can lock this layer where all my background is. And if you're a really good designer, you should probably label it background. I'm really bad about naming my layers. But then I know, and then it's locked. So now I can come back to layer 1 and I can grab everything. And honestly, if I was working on this and really getting into it, I'd probably then have an image layer and like put certain things on certain layers and then keep my body copy on its own layer in case I need to edit or move it around, just so things don't get in my way. Does anyone have any questions about this? Did I do anything too fast? This video will be up for you. Gosh, this fly. I'm sure some of my class recordings are so weird because things like this fly happen. It's very real. Okay, I'm gonna stop screen sharing for a minute. I'll definitely have to rewatch some of this. Yeah, so watch all of these videos. You have a class expert. Veda, are you on Discord? I was just volunteering you.
On Discord.
Okay, so use that, use the group chats if you need to. It's not that hard. And I say this as someone with years of experience, but I say this is years of experience who was just taught something new today. There's always a different way to do this. There's multiple ways to do anything. The end goal is to create something that looks really cool, but you do have to use InDesign for this. I want you to get comfortable in it. Because if you do, and I know Veda mentioned that, and I think Jeanette also mentioned that you really like InDesign, right? Or do you like Illustrator?
I love InDesign.
Okay, you were
Not
the
Illustrator.
So if you use InDesign properly, it makes your job so much easier. It is a great program. And I think most of my students avoid it because a lot of people get into Photoshop through photography and digital image editing, and you get really comfortable, but it's not layout software. Same thing for Illustrator. People want to draw things, you start getting comfortable with all the different drawing tools, but it's not layout software. I hate Photoshop. So I think it's really, I mean, this is a blessing because I never have any InDesign experts or people that like InDesign as other students in this class. So you have two here this time. And so lean on them. If anybody turns in a spectacular assignment next week, you're going to have to do a runner project. And it's going to be mandatory because some of you are so talented. So if you get comfortable in this tool, it'll be a piece of cake for you to get something published. And then you're a published designer. How cool would that be?
Can I say something really quick? I work at the Bakersfield Californian as a page designer, and we also use InDesign, and we are struggling so much with getting people to design for us. Like, it's just me and one other person right now. And so designers are very rare. So InDesign is good to know.
Hey, page designers?
Yeah, page designers.
And people that know how to use InDesign?
Yeah.
Yeah, people avoid it, but it's honestly like if you aren't using InDesign to lay stuff out, like as layout software, your job is probably so much harder than it needs to be. It's just really great software. So this is pushing you into this right off the deep end, but you also have to do a little bit of Photoshop. If you also are really into illustration and you're getting comfortable in Illustrator and you'd like to import an illustration instead of a photo, well, I want you to clip something out. I want you to have that Photoshop experience of clipping something out, saving it, and importing it into InDesign. But you can illustrate something too, like if you want to illustrate your background, if you want to illustrate really cool name for your headline, save it out as an EPS, drop it into InDesign. This is just like that very first assignment we did where you're bringing in all those components. It's just, you're doing it a little differently. So Veda has volunteered to be your student helper for the week if you need her. I'm always available through email, but I'm really excited to see what you come up with. Pick somebody that you like. You can pull images off the internet. You don't have to have the copyright to them. It's for an assignment, but make sure, that's what I was going to show you as well. Hold on, let me screen share again. You'll see here in my Photoshop, I actually pulled this image off first, and look how pixelated this is. I would start having trouble with this one if I were importing it in. It just wouldn't look as good. So I actually pulled this one off instead. Here's a couple tips and tricks for that, for stealing. But you can see too, I could probably grab this one just as easily. Let's see what, the hair looks okay. Let's see what it does when I add that mask to it. Oops, I added 2 masks because I was impatient. Double click this. So it does okay, but see how it's not really, the pixels aren't there for it to be a really refined edges. So try to look for something that looks more like this when you're close up rather than this one. See the pixelation happening here? What I did for this to steal it off the web is when I Googled Beyonce and images, this one was too small. I don't know where that other one is. Oh, here it is that I ended up finding. I click open image in new tab because when I just tried to drag this to my desktop, it was like a web locked image. And what I'll do a lot of the time, I work on a big screen, like desktop computer, and I'll just like zoom in. And then I will just, for me, oh my gosh, this fly. Guys, I don't know. I took a shower today. I don't smell, my hair smells good, but this fly won't leave me alone. Okay, Shift Command 4 is the screen capture key command on a Mac. I'm sure you can do this on a Windows machine, but I don't know what the command is. And then I actually just screen capture my image. And then it should be high enough resolution for this project, even though this might, like if I was really printing this, depending on the size, it might be a little pixelated, but for this project, it's probably fine. And then that goes on my desktop. You'll see my desktop's really messy right now. And then I can open it in Photoshop and I have my image. So that's an easy way to do that. I also wanted to show you one last thing, and then you all can go and learn on your own. We were talking about grabbing silhouettes last week after class. I was talking to someone about this and I meant to do a tutorial and I just haven't gotten around to do any extra tutorials, but like if there's something you want to make a silhouette out of and you don't have access to like stock, because you can download vectors and things like that. So you could look for same thing that we did last week. Let me think. Dog isolated on white. And let me look for one that I think would make a pretty good silhouette. Oh, this guy will be perfect. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, you guys. Okay, so open image in new tab. Let's see if it'll let me just drag this to my desktop. Oops, I opened the page. Open image in new tab because I just want the image. Pull it over. Okay, so it is a JPEG. Oh my gosh. I'm almost embarrassed to upload this class video because I look like a crazy person, but there is a fly. Okay, so here it is. This is the dog isolated. You can do that same trick where you go image, adjustment, and threshold, and you can turn this dog into a solid image. And then you can save it. And then you can pop over, I just saved it on my desktop, pop over to Illustrator. And then you want to drag it from your desktop or import it. And then you can go to Object, Image Trace, Make, and I always just do Make and Expand. And now it's a vector version of that dog in a silhouette. Pretty easy. It's not perfect. The higher resolution your image and the more detail here, the better your silhouette will be because the more information that the computer has to pull from. But I just thought that's something really easy and effective. And I thought about it when we were talking about infographics, because what if, you know, some of you wanted to do like a infographic on varying like dog breeds, or I don't know, whatever. You all did a perfect job on the assignment, but it's just an easy way to steal something, other than like the other way to get something like this would be to pull over your reference image and then like literally tracing around this dog, or you can always try to live trace anything and just see how it comes out. But see how you kind of get some, that extra threshold step gets rid of some of the junk in there. But I just thought that was a fun, easy tip that some of you might like to utilize. So wanted to share that with you. That's it, unless you have any additional questions.
I have a quick question, Jen. I was looking at the syllabus and I see we have like 3 more weeks. Think it says on November 8th that's our final project discussion. When is our last day?
So we don't do a traditional final in this class. Your project is your final. And what you have to do is submit it in some kind of like presentation, whether you write it up or some students like to submit videos where they're talking through. And what your final is a brand style guide. And I usually encourage you to do a personal brand, but some students also use like their own businesses or family businesses and create a whole brand identity for that. So it is due the day we would normally have our final, but you don't have to show up and do a final in any way.
Oh, okay. So then
your last day, let's look at the course count. Let me look at the course calendar.
Okay. I was just seeing it doesn't look like there's anything scheduled after November 29th. So I was just curious if we were meeting anymore.
So we have, okay, so typically what I do, what is the final day for this class? Like what's our final schedule? I think I've looked it up a couple of times because I made this course calendar. But it also just depends on the way things fall. So we're at week 10 right now. We're doing layout. And then next week we'll do digital design for social media. And then we'll do the intro to the final. And that will be the week before Thanksgiving. So that if you want to work on, oh no, we have a work date. Do I have these mixed up? Let me look at a calendar. Okay, so we're at next week's November 1st, which is digital design. Then we do intro, and then we have the work day. Then we have Thanksgiving. Yeah, because I think our final. Okay, looking up the final schedule. Oops. So we are a Monday only. Okay, yeah, so our final would have been December 7th. So this project will be due by December 7th. So that day between the 7th, and that's why if you look at the class calendar, I think that's why I put the final work day before Thanksgiving instead of after. So we have the 29th would be like the last day to get extra help, make anything up. It's again, really just a work day or like a day for you to get extra help before you have to turn that final in the following week. And then we have Thanksgiving. So this is time for you to work on your final. And the final is a multi-page document. It's the most components of anything we've done yet in this class. And that's why I give you so much time to work on it. And then, so I'm working back in time. So then the 15th of November is what I call the final project work day. So on that 11/8, which I have as week 12 for intro to branding, The intro to branding is when we discuss branding and we discuss the final project, but you still like, you're not working on it yet. You still have a week to submit your topic or your business that you're going to brand and get that approved. So then when we come in the following week where it says final project workday, we have our final topic chosen, you know what you're supposed to do, and you can come in and actually get help on specifically what you're doing for your brand. Otherwise, like if we didn't have that work day, I tell you what to pick, students go off, they pick things, and then I get the finals back and I'm like, you kind of missed the mark. So those are just like checkpoints to make sure if you need any additional help. But you're right, looking at that, the 29th is really the last day that we meet, and that day is just extra help if you need help on your final before you have to turn it in.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, that was a rabbit hole.
That was a really long answer.
Yeah, it's just coming up really fast, so I just wanted to make sure.
It is, and like I said, there's like a lot of components to the final. I give you a lot of time to work on it. Next week is really fun, the digital design for social media and web. It's an assignment where we make animated GIFs, and it's really easy, but it's like a really fun tool to have in your toolkit, and people are really impressed by it. But again, it's really easy. And I make them all the time and upload them to Giphy, and then I'll see my people I don't even like really know that well use them in stories, and I'll be like, oh, they're using the GIF that I made. So it's a really fun thing to be able to do. It's really fun to be able to make it if you have friends with certain brands, or you have a brand, or if you like are involved in CSUB in any way and you want to make special stickers for social media. That's what we're doing next week. And I like that assignment, even though it's super easy and it's one little component of design. I just think it's a really fun, useful tool to have in your toolkit. And then we're going to get into branding, which is its whole monster of design. And you get to bring in all of the things that you've learned so far, from layout to typography to color theory. But that's why you get to pick, so that you're designing for something that one, hopefully can actually be useful to you. I've had students brand full-on businesses that they go and implement. I've had students brand family businesses that have never had logos before. And so I really want you to start thinking about the final and what you could use it for that's actually useful. I've had students also brand friends businesses and just like given them this whole gift of like a brand because they had to do it for this assignment. So that's why we give it so much time. There's just a lot of different components to it. It's harder and easier in a way because you've learned all of these things. Your skill set in this program is probably maxed out by then. So you can use Adobe software, but you also have the option to curate and pull things and download like stock things from other places and kind of pull them together just like you would in a professional design setting. So yeah, it's coming up really fast. The semester flew by, and it's also probably really overwhelming to think that you're about to end it and end the final. So again, I'm here. Email me if you need help. And this is a fairly hard learning curve this week. Next week, I think it's super easy and it's really fun. So, and then it's final. Okay, any other questions before you go? Stick around if you need help or have specific questions. Bye.
Sorry, I'm so annoying. I have one more question. What are the, I don't see the like details on the final project. Is it like a 15-page thing or?
Yeah, I haven't turned that on yet.
Oh, okay. I was just curious how
But
big
I can
it was.
tell you it is. So pages are relative based on how you want to lay out your, what you're making is a brand style guide, right? Like,
yeah.
CSUB has a brand style guide, or like, you know, any brand would have like a brand style guide. So there are 5 components to that, but how you choose to lay it out in your PDF that you're submitting is up to you. So I've had, and I'll show you lots of examples. I've had students do things where like you can do like a letterhead and a business card, and they'll actually mock it up so it looks like it's like sitting on a table. I've had students do like, here's the letterhead, here's the business card, like one per page. And if you've seen a style guide where it's like logo, brand colors, things like that, you can put those all on one page. You can kind of divide it up how you feel looks best to lay it out. But there are 5 different components, and it's essentially like 80 points, and 40 of those points, I might be getting the rubric wrong, but I can activate that soon so you all know what's coming up if you're more comfortable knowing what you're getting.
Sorry.
But like over half the points of the final is just me going through the checklist and being like, okay, you did that part. Okay, you did that part. You showed the colors, you showed the typography, you showed the logo, you showed all of these elements. And it's like you get over half your points just by doing what you're supposed to do. And you'd be surprised how many times students lose points in that section because they'll skip a piece of it. So you get a ton of points just for like putting the right things in there. And then it's just like our traditional rubric where it's based off of like style and skill and effectiveness and those things.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm done asking questions.
All right.
Okay,
You'll do
bye.
fine. I mean, you're gonna do fine in the final because I know like you've ran a business, so you kind of know like how to composite and put things together and create a brand style guide. So it'll be up to you. I know you mentioned you struggle with like Illustrator and the drawing aspect of it. So
Yeah.
you may not want to design a brand around a very illustrated complex logo, like work within your skill set.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Mel?
Hi. Okay. I am trying to work on this assignment, and there is just a random box popping up, and I think it's the margins, but like I'm not.
Screen share with me?
Can you look at it to help me?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Give me one sec. This purple thing is just the margins, right?
Yeah, that's just the margins. That's just a guide. If you hit command or control and then the colon, it goes away.
Colon.
Like if it's bothering you.
I don't know why, but my brain is absolutely convincing me that it's not the margins. And so I don't know. I was freaking out a little bit. So it was like control and then the colon.
When I first started using InDesign, yeah, and then you do colon. If it's not colon, do the quotes. It's one of those. One will bring the grid and one will bring, okay, so not that one. There you go.
There it is. Oh my goodness.
So you can turn those on and off as well as guides that you could pull down.
Yeah.
When I first, there's like a feature on the side of the toolbar for preview. Let me go to it. Yeah, you could preview mode. And when I first started using InDesign, I actually would design in preview mode because those things bothered me, like things going off the page and margins and stuff.
Yeah.
Before I actually learned like, oh, I need those things. Those are tools to help me. But when I was in college and I would do like random newsletters or like I had my first job, I would design everything with the preview button on because it bothered me to see those things in my while I was working, because I felt like it was distracting. So I totally get that.
And I think my other thing is, I mean, I have an idea of maybe what I can try to do to fix this, but when I pulled him out of this picture, you can see that like I couldn't pull the letter on his jersey off, right?
Yeah, because it selected it
through.
So
Yeah.
you open him up in Photoshop, you can just paint in that and tell it not to by hand instead of like trying to select it.
So like if I were to, hold on, I can't remember which one, if this was my original one or not, but if I have to pull them off again, I will.
You've got a great start though on this. I'll tell you right now, you're doing a good job.
Thank you. So if I pull them off of here, right, I think I have inverse selected. Hold on, let me go back one. Okay. So then this is when it selected him and it just didn't pull this because it's like blending in with the background.
Oh, are you in Photoshop right now? I don't see it.
Oh, man.
You just shared, you probably just shared
I
InDesign.
probably just shared the InDesign screen. Let me just share my first screen then.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna kill this fly.
Okay. Now, so can you see Photoshop?
Yeah, I can see Photoshop now.
Okay. So this was like if it pulled him up when I did the object selection, pulled everything up except for the jersey number.
So go ahead and add your layer mask to that.
Which was.
Yep, click on that.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Oops, so undo, select inverse, and then click that.
Yeah. Inverse and then.
So now zoom in there to the G. Is that a G?
It's a part of a
Whatever letter that is.
Yeah.
And then get your brush tool.
Okay.
And then click on the
That
white and
is
black.
Huge. So click on just in here and then like kind of bring it back
So
up.
see how you're erasing it? You're gonna want white instead. So just turn, if you click on the palette markers over here.
On the
Or
right
yeah,
side
or
of the
just click
screen?
white right there, yeah. And just grab the white one.
Okay.
Now go back over there.
Oh, let's go back. Okay.
And you just kind of lightly brush. You'll probably want it small on those edges, but you'll bring it in. See how it's bringing it back?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And so then.
And then when you get to that edge, just kind of be real like slow about it and figure out where you want it to go.
Yeah. So then like I could just.
And
Zoom.
if you do too much, just hit the just change it to black and then color the opposite side.
Oh, okay.
So that's what's cool about layer masks is that you can hide and show stuff just based off of what you're painting. Because white tells the layer mask to show it, black tells the layer mask to hide it.
Yeah, and you know what? I remember this from when we were doing the first assignment I think that we did in Photoshop, and
Yeah, but it's
like racking my brain. trying to
Yeah,
remember how to do
it's
it.
funny because it's like when you're using it for something different, you almost have to like it feels like it's not the same, but it's the same
Yeah.
thing in a different way. So now you've got it.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. That was all.
Welcome. Roxanne, are you still here with questions?
I have one question in regards to the text that's going to be on the assignment. You were saying that we can copy something from the internet, or is it just generic words just on there?
So when I went and copied what's called lorem ipsum, it's just like fake Latin. So it looks like words. So you want it to look like actual body copy where like you can see a sentence structure kind of. Like don't just copy and paste the same word. But you can get that text from wherever you want. I mean, it could be a recipe. It could be an unrelated article. Just copy and paste so that you have some words to use.
Okay. That was it.
And
That
then
was
you
my only
cut
question.
them, like they don't have to make sense too. Like if you have too many and you want it to fit, just cut it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.